What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, coming back to you post-season after the Packers lost to the Philadelphia Eagles a couple weeks ago. We are now on championship weekend, getting into the thick of it as the Packers embark on their offseason. Uh, and talk a little bit about the season in general is my lovely co-host George Husky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, doing well. We're not talking about the Packers of the present anymore. We're talking about the Packers of the past. Welcome.
The very recent past, not the super
Very
far away
recent.
past.
It feels far away now.
Yeah, just a little bit, just a little bit. So, first and foremost, some news: the Packers have let defensive line coach Jason Rebrovich go, according to Rob Dombrowski, who got that from a source. Rebrovich was coach the outside linebackers under previous coordinator Joe Barry, and he was the D line coach under Jeff Hafley. Notable because obviously the D line this year wasn't the greatest. They've had better seasons for sure, especially out of Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt and the rest of them. So hopefully this change signals a little bit of improvement from the Packers D line group this coming season because they need it. But a good change nonetheless. Excuse me. Hopefully we won't have to have this conversation about the D line next year at this time.
Yes, I would very much enjoy that, especially when the move to move out Preston Smith, who I'm just gonna be honest, I did not really pay attention to how he did in Pittsburgh,
He
but
had a couple of sacks in his time with the Steelers. That's
oh,
about it.
good for him. But this youth movement on the edge on the line didn't really pay off. I mean, the guy that was probably the most impactful didn't played half the season, Devontae Wyatt, who
Yep,
Brian Gutekunst in his end of season press conference mentioned or said as much. So yeah, it was just kind of a lot of uneven play, consistencies, stuff that you'd expect from young guys. But when that's your entire defensive line, it was a bit of a problem.
for sure, for sure. Like Devontae Wyatt being out for the majority of the season wasn't ideal, and so yeah, they just need to play better, and hopefully a change in coach helps them with that. So, but other than that, not too much news coming out of Lambeau. Rich Bisaccia still has a job, which is surprising to say the least. Um, Here's to hoping that that news changes sometime soon, respectfully. But that's really the only changes at 1265 Lombardi Avenue. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we have some more to talk about because I don't know how much longer of a leash Rich has, but I can't imagine it can be much longer. But apparently it can.
No, especially the threat of retirement, and now he's a candidate for the Cowboys job, but
Which is
Brian
weird because
Schottenheimer might get it.
which is a Brian Schottenheimer thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Jerry Jones is doing. I would be
Actor Jerry
shocked.
Jones is up
Actor
to
Jerry
his
Jones. I'd be
landman.
shocked if they hired Rich Bisaccia as their head coach.
I'd be shocked if they hired Brian Schottenheimer.
He's their current OC, so
That worked out well.
I it's Jerry Jones, man. You
Yeah.
can't
So
really
this is why
rely on
the
him for too
Packers
much.
instill a policy of once you hit 70,
You're out of there.
yeah.
Get
And I'm
lost.
not calling no strike three.
Alrighty, so this pod we're going through all of our preseason predictions, uh, talking about just just that, just the preseason predictions, where we went wrong, where we got right, um, and how that all went. So Jordan has the list, and he'll have all the answers and such. So without further ado, Jordan, why don't you kick us off?
I'm gonna kick it off. I'm just gonna show where listeners where we were when we made these predictions. We did Packers roster moves because it came right after roster cutdowns.
Oh boy.
So, do you want to name one, two, three, four, five, five? Yeah. Name the five players. Sorry, six. Name the six players that got cut and were picked up by practice squads or NFL teams before the start of the season. Do you
And-
remember these names?
Anders Carlson.
Nope.
He got picked up, didn't he?
Later in the season, but not right away.
Oh, well then also no to Greg Joseph.
Correct.
Like he's a no, not a yes.
He's a no. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
gonna say you're right.
Yeah.
He's a no.
Um, it there's a wide receiver here that got picked up by Miami, whose name I cannot remember.
He unfortunately got hurt by the end of the season.
He did, but I cannot remember his freaking name.
Would you like his name?
I would like his name.
Grant DeBose.
Grant DeBose. Yep. Uh, I think that's the only guy I'm gonna pull.
Royce Newman, Michael Pratt went to Tampa Bay. Samari Toure, who got his name corrected to Samurai Toure, got picked up by the Bears. Anthony Johnson Jr. went to the Giants, and Christian Welch went to the Broncos.
Wow.
Or, yeah, that's right, because we thought it was going to be the Ravens and then went to the Broncos.
Correct.
I don't think any of those players had any, outside of, unfortunately, Grant DeBose.
Yeah, because he was playing.
He was playing, and obviously they had a lot of injuries to their wide receivers.
Right.
Just thought there was a little, the time capsule of a couple months ago.
Lovely.
Very different time.
Lovely.
All right. Our first question, of course, is about our old friend Aaron Rodgers. Somewhat. Aaron Rodgers is the only Packers quarterback to have passed for 40 or more touchdowns in a single season, which he did 3 separate times. Will Jordan Love join Rodgers in this club this year? Numac said yes. I said no, but I put a number on it, and I said 37 touchdowns. Jordan Love finished with 25.
Yeah. The
Part of that is
Josh
the
Jacobs
games
being
missed.
well, the games missed and Josh Jacobs being so good for them.
Perfect segue. Second question. Predict Josh Jacobs' stat line for the 2024 season. I said 237 carries, 1,228 rushing yards, and 10 touchdowns. Numac said 225 carries, 1,100 rushing yards, and 9 TDs in parentheses on the ground. Josh Jacobs had 301 carries, 1,329 yards, rushing yards, 15 rushing touchdowns, and an additional receiving touchdown. His first of his career, of course.
Yep.
Kind of mind blowing. I mean, that was in the time frame of Josh Jacobs is going to be this changeup that Packers needed around Jordan Love, and we're like, he's going to be a good supplement Jordan Love rather than being the focal point. And then obviously that changed over the course of the season.
Right. Yeah. I lowballed him, and he proved me
We
wrong.
both did.
Yeah. You were closer though. Like I had half his touchdowns. That was 200 yards fewer.
I guess one more touchdown than you did. I'm not going to take credit for that. Here we go. Let's get a little sad here or angry.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Sorry, I'm looking way too ahead. Third question was, which Packers pass catcher will lead the team in receiving touchdowns? I said Jaden Reed.
I think I said Romeo
You
Dobbs,
said
right?
Romeo Dobbs.
Yeah.
Correct. Tucker Kraft led the team with 7. Jaden Reed had 6, and Dobbs had 4.
Damn. Not great.
Well, here we go.
This is the trifecta I thought I had, and I butchered.
Will the Packers have a pass catcher who has a 1,000-yard season? Sorry, I kind of tripped over there. If so, which one or ones will it be? I said yes, Jaden Reed. You said yes, Christian Watson and Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed led the team with 857 receiving yards, but obviously no one got 1,000 receiving yards.
Yeah. This is tough. This is tough.
Well, it's going to get tougher. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fifth question. Which Packer will lead the team in sacks this season?
Oh.
We both said Rashawn Gary. I said 14 sacks. You said 12. Rashawn Gary did lead the team with 7.5 sacks.
Not good. Not good.
I don't think I am going to say right now. don't think I'm going to be that bullish on predicting Rashawn Gary's stat line
No,
moving forward.
no, not at all. I think if this year was any indication, we got to keep that number in the single digits for him. Unfortunately.
I think you also privately you asked if we did targets for predictions, and I'm going to include that on next year's prediction list because I
Yeah.
love that idea.
Yeah.
That gives a better indication than like 1,000-yard receivers. Like those are fun milestones to have.
Right.
But like, who is Jordan Love looking to the most? And to answer that question, do you remember who led the Packers in targets this year?
I do because I wrote an article on it. It's on Tavion Wicks.
76.
Yeah.
He had 76 targets.
76 targets.
His catch percentage was 51.3%.
It's not good.
No.
No. Jane Reed was right behind him. I think was 75.
Yes, you're correct. Dobbs 72, Kraft
Yeah.
70.
They were all right around that 70 mark.
Mm-hmm. Now, you get to gloat a little bit.
I got one right.
Which Packer will have the most interceptions this season? I said Javon Bullard, who I don't believe had one. Nope. You said Xavier McKinney. He had 8.
Let's go.
Led the team.
Let's
Led
go.
the team easily. Now I get to gloat.
Okay. Well,
Will the seventh question? Will the Packers have a special teams touchdown this season? I said no.
Yeah.
You said yes, and I included the note doubling down, which I would presume to be that you predicted this last year, and they didn't score one, and then you doubled down to say that they were going to this year. They obviously didn't. So we might see a triple down.
No, they had one last year, didn't they?
The Keyshawn one would have been 22.
Oh, alas.
Yes. All right. I bring up another thing here really quick after this question because 8th question was, will Braden Narvison last the entire season as the Packers kicker? I believe he made it to 6 games.
Yep, something like that.
Yes, 6 games. I want to tell you right now, that might be the most depressing question asked on a football podcast ever, and I'm proud to have delivered that.
He did not make it.
No. He only made it a third of the way. I think we were both so over the kicking battle that we were just like, yes,
Begging.
This couldn't possibly get stupider. And of course it did.
Of course it did.
Here we go. Oh. 9th question. Who will be the breakout player for the Packers this season? We included rookies. I said Lucas Van Ness.
Tough.
And I felt a little bullish because I put down how many sacks he'd had this year. I said 7.5 sacks. He had 3.
Yeah, not great.
Not great. If the season ended halfway through, you were looking pretty.
Devontae Wyatt.
I said Jaden Reed.
Oh, okay. Damn. Yeah, he didn't end the season. He didn't end the season very well. It was not ideal.
No. Next question. Who will finish with the most cheeses this 2024 Packers season? We had the same answer.
Jordan Love.
Who we thought? We did say Jordan Love.
Yeah, I think he only had 2.
I think we have a tie.
I think it's X and Edrin, if I'm not mistaken.
Edrin and Josh
Jacobs, yeah.
Both with 5.
Yeah. I had one of them right.
There you go.
Which, shocked that Edger Cooper was the guy leading the way.
Okay, so here's our big discrepancy. How many Lambeau leaps will we see from the Packers players this season?
Did you end up getting all of them?
No, I didn't. Because the problem was, do you remember this? There was a game, it was the Brandon McManus game-winning kick game, where they all went into the stands. So, pandemonium, anarchy doesn't serve society well, much less counting Lambeau leaps.
Okay.
So, You said 16. A leap is a player jumping and getting in the stands regardless of success,
Yep.
which I agree with. I think I was a little contentious about that, but now that thinking about that, I think I was on my high horse. So yeah, that one doesn't resolve itself at all because your boy just didn't really do that. Here we go. Will the Packers make the playoffs this year? If so, how many playoff games will they go?
Damn.
I said yes, divisional round, which I remember you being very mad about. You
Yeah.
were like, what? If we think they're going to be good, why would they go to the divisional round?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You, of course, said yes as well, and NFC Championship game.
Alas, both wrong on that one. They lose in the wild card.
Question number 13. Will the Packers win the NFC North this season? If no, who will win the division? I said no. The Lions will, which they did. You said yes, including the fact that the Packers are going to be the number 1 seed this year.
Damn it.
You're high on their hog.
Listen, man. They should have been better record wise.
I agree. They were good. 11-6, but it was the 7th seed. So
Yeah.
knowing that the NFC was going to be, and we're obviously recording this ahead of the championship game. All the NFC North teams turned out to be poop.
Yeah, they all got embarrassed.
It didn't matter when it mattered most. So some say it's a fraud division. I don't subscribe to that theory. I think
Winning the playoffs is hard.
Yeah. Who would have thought a rookie quarterback would lead the Washington Commanders to the championship game?
Not a lot of
Who
people.
would have thought that Ben Johnson would fumble the bag so much that he's going to the other quarterback that they thought was going to be the franchise quarterback and told his punter that you're not going to have to kick this much this year?
Yeah. It's a wonderful question.
Jordan, yeah, we're going to go in on Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
14th question. Packers had just one Pro Bowler last season, so 2023. That was Kenny Clark. How many Pro Bowlers will they have this 2024 season, and who will they be? I said 3.
Did you get one right by pure luck?
I got 2. I said Jordan Love, Rashawn Gary, Xavier McKinney.
Okay.
You said 4. Jordan Love, Jaden Reed, Zach Tom, Xavier McKinney.
I got one right.
Of course, you did get one right. Of course, Josh Jacobs is the other Pro Bowler with Gary and McKinney. Yep. Gary one is just like,
it's crazy.
What are we doing here?
Crazy.
Oh my god.
Is that it?
No, we're still going strong, baby.
All right.
I'm going on the 3rd page.
Wow.
Will the Packers have any major award winners this season? If so, who do you think will win which award? We can't really answer this because they haven't handed out these awards outside.
Yeah, but they handed out the nominees for all of them, and there were no Packers, so we can all be wrong on that.
Oh, well then, okay. I said Matt LaFleur was gonna be Coach of the Year.
He wasn't a finalist.
Of course, you said no. You did say no.
Yeah.
16th question. Who will have a better record this season between the Packers and the Jets? Will the Jets make the playoffs this season? Packers have the better record. Jets do not make the playoffs, said I in early September 2024. You said Packers will have the better record and the Jets will make the playoffs.
I was wrong.
To be fair, and our GSPN Primo listeners will know, you're not high on the Bills coming into the year.
No.
You had the Dolphins win the division.
Yep.
I think you had Dolphins, Jets, Bills, Pats.
Uh-huh.
And Pats is like obviously the easy fourth place team.
Yep. Yeah,
Right,
I mean, what do you do? The Jets were bad this year,
exactly.
and I bought into the shell of Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully they will perform.
You're not on trial.
I feel on trial.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to give people a sense of where we were coming from. Part of a podcast, we give opinions, and we're not going to be right with probably 80% of them. But it's these moments that we can look back and look at the record and be like, I was right here and there and there. All right. Who will come out of the NFC this season? We can't truly answer this, but both of our teams are not in the hunt still. I said the Lions. You said the 49ers.
Oh, yuck.
Season from hell for San Francisco.
That is for sure.
Who will come out of the AFC this season? What the? I literally wrote Kansas City Lions for my pick. I believe that is the Chiefs.
Yeah,
Um,
because you picked the
had the
Lions at the
Ravens.
NFC, right?
Yes, my Super Bowl matchup was definitely Lions Chiefs.
Yeah, I said Ravens.
You said Ravens, which
I, that was close.
yeah, it's a good one.
Mark Andrews fumbling
Okay,
and
can
fumbling
I?
away
Yeah.
the
So
division.
what happened? I did not watch this game.
Oh, it's really
So
good.
why is he apologizing on Instagram?
Because in the second half of the fourth quarter, he caught a ball over the middle at like the 50-yard line. And if he just goes forward and gets tackled, he gets like a 15-yard gain, probably 15, 20. But instead, he catches the
Right.
ball and is surrounded by four Bills players. And instead of going forward, he cuts back. And as he cuts back, he gets the ball punched out and fumbles. And then after the Bills score, the Ravens go down and they end up scoring a touchdown when they're down 8. And so they're going for 2 and they pass. Lamar Jackson passes to Mark Andrews in the flat at the goal line. Mark Andrews, more focused on where he is on the field than catching the ball, hits him square in the chest, drops it, and they lose by 2. So he had 2 critical mistakes in the second half of the fourth quarter that directly like lost them the game.
I
But
only
like,
have one word.
go ahead with your one word.
No, you go. You go.
Lamar also threw an interception and had a fumble himself. And so you don't really win games a whole lot when you lose the turnover battle 3-0, but they were still in a position to possibly go to overtime and have a chance at winning that game. And Mark Andrews fumbled it away twice. So
To quote the great Billy Crystal, I'll have what he's having.
why would you? Why?
Because my Instagram, I don't know if you've heard of this platform called Instagram. It's in the news these days. I'm inundated by Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan are reuniting for what is surely going to be a Super Bowl promo
Yeah,
commercial.
it's probably an Uber Eats commercial.
I saw it probably. I saw it 8 times. I was on Instagram for like 5 minutes before I was like, why am I being fed this?
If that's the
Rant over.
case, why are you having what Mark Andrews is having?
Never mind. 19th question. We have one more after this one. So we're almost done.
What is this? 20 questions?
It is 20 questions. I probably try to. Are you asking me in the form of a question?
Yes.
Who will be the NFL MVP this season? We both said Patrick Mahomes. I don't know. I don't know who's actually going to be the MVP this year.
It'll be Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. One of the two. I think it's gonna be Josh Allen, based on awards and whatnot, but we'll see.
We'll see. And we can't totally answer this just yet, but
Super Bowl
who will
champion?
win Super Bowl 59 this season? I picked not the Kansas City Lions this time. I picked the Kansas City Chiefs. You said the Ravens.
I really hope it's the Bills now. That's where I'm. That's where I'm leaning. I'm putting my eggs in that basket.
To dethrone the three-peat.
Yeah, that's the
Possible
hope.
three-peat.
I'd rather the Packers be the only team to three-peat.
Oh, I guess with
With
it
titles,
crossed over
not
into
not
the Super Bowl.
Bowls.
Yeah,
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 with titles. Only team to finish the season on a win 3 years in a row.
that is true.
Yeah.
Those are our predictions.
Yeah, they weren't good,
They
which I
weren't good.
think
I think
is. Go ahead.
it felt more. Not. I don't want to go over 2023 predictions, but that one felt more ghastly. It kind of just shows you our overall. That is a good representation of where we thought this season was going to go, and where it did not meet the eye or ceiling of potential.
Yeah, I think our predictions were that of a Super Bowl caliber team that was rising to the occasion, and the results bore out that that just wasn't how the year shook out. Then this team has more holes than we anticipated, kind of thing. And so
Yes.
I think it's like you said. I think it's a great representation of how the season went. They were supposed to be better than what they were. Like they were 11-6 and had a good record, but they were by no means a great team, which is a lot of the issue. And a lot of the issue being that the offense was kind of stalling out in the second half of the season. So it makes sense that they
Which
didn't have
also
1,000 yard receiver. Like they had 1,000 yard rusher for the first
no.
time in forever, but no 1,000 yard receiver kind of makes sense when you look at how Jordan Love had a, regression to what he had in 2023.
That is also the thing about it is that obviously very bullish on Jordan Love entering second year as a starter. Definitely Jaden Reed. We were both looking at him as, and he was there. Like it wasn't like we didn't see it at all this season. We did, and then it just trailed off spectacularly. I think that is probably of all the Packers. I would say this season. I think he had the most disappointing because we at least saw it. Yeah, I mean Jordan Love. Obviously, we had high expectations that we'd see it for flashes of drives or points in games, but it wasn't consistent. But
Right.
Jaden Reed, literally, I think the first 9 games, you see him on like this like track to be like an all pro level receiver, and it just fell off to like significantly. But then on the flip side, and we weren't technically wrong here. We were very high on the Jeff Halfley defensive experience.
Yeah,
He
we
obviously
were.
picked Xavier McKinney to lead interceptions, but we thought a lot of that was going to come from the pass rush.
Right.
And as we literally started this podcast off talking about how they let go of their defensive line coach,
Yeah.
I think I don't know. It's just funny how things work out where we can say that the Packers had a top 5 defense, and even in their only playoff game, their defense kept them into a game that they had no business of really being in if the Eagles were going to do anything of significance. But again, I would have thought it would have been the front four, not the second level or safety kind of boosting them in a big way. Yeah, I mean, it flipped that way of how good this defense is going to be.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. But going back to Jaden Reed, Discord user more cowbell 520. I don't know where he pulled this from, but Jaden Reed dropped 10 passes per PFF, ranking as the third most amongst all players. Conversely, he caught 9 of 13 contested catches, good for a success rate of 69.4%, ranking seventh among all receivers. So I think that kind of nails it down. Like
Yep.
he was as bad as he probably could be when it came to drops. Like him and Dontavian Wicks were a pair to be trifled with when it came to guys you didn't want dropping the ball. But then he made some wow catches. We saw it all season long. And so if we can get more of the contested catch Jaden Reed, we'll be good. But the more passes he drops, the more in flux this offense looks, and that's where issues arise.
Yes, that's where the lack of a number one does come into play.
And
I
that's
think
the
we
go ahead.
we didn't really talk much about it, but Brian Gutekunst had a really good press conference. Really good and strong. It was standard, but I thought the last 5 minutes were kind of where that's where like the money quotes happen. That's where like he mentioned the sense of urgency. It's time to start competing for championships. The kind of thing that it was a little rah rah, but it was also like, he knows where they are, despite not believing in a window, which I thought was you know how
Yeah.
GMs and how they can turn out of a phrase, but then eventually like
Yep.
walk into one. But he had mentioned the wide receiver room specifically being a strong suit, or they don't necessarily need a number one because that means that it's more of a hindrance on the total offense, and that so much attention is going to one guy that your offense is so tilted towards them that you don't necessarily have a number two or a changeup or the things to accommodate that.
Hmm.
I just thought it was really interesting in a very, I don't know, like, do I still think the future is bright for someone like Jaden Reed, and part of it is that he doesn't have really any significant injury struggles to kind of worry about. Romeo Dobbs had a pair of concussions late in the season and was obviously affected by it. Christian Watson, obviously, we don't have to go into great detail, but
Yep.
his whole NFL career has been snake bitten by injuries and specifically lower leg injuries.
Yep.
So it's like Jay Reed, if you're talking about the wide receivers in the Packers team, of course Jay Reed has to be a star. John Tavian Wicks, we all thought was going to have some kind of breakout role, but like, I don't know. That's where it's going to get really dicey. I think a big point that is going to be really tough to like not overdo it, even though you have to, is that these like for all the draft classes and draft picks that they've made over the last couple of years, they got to pay these guys
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
That's where like it's fun to get ahead of schedule, but then it takes a loss like this to uncover, things weren't right with Jordan Love, things weren't right with their wide receivers,
Yep.
things weren't right with the guys that were making the most money on the team this year. Not that that's a bullseye on their back, but like, how fans react to
Yeah.
people getting big money and not necessarily returning it on investment. So yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot of fascinating decisions. I wonder where they go this offseason and how their focus is on like the 22 draft class specifically.
Yeah.
Because it's like you get Dobbs, you get Watson, you got Zach Tom.
Yep.
That seems like a no
No
brainer.
brainer.
But I don't know. A lot of these decisions are coming up soon, and it's gonna get. You can't let it just happen. You have to kind of proactively get to it or get around it if you do move on from guys that you don't want to pay big money to.
Right. And I think like that's part of the issue is that all these young guys that we were so excited about in their rookie and their sophomore seasons have kind of fallen flat in year three. Like Christian Watson, you probably let him walk as important as he is to the offense. Depending on how Romeo Dobbs goes next year, like do you let him walk? Like Zach, like you mentioned, Zach Tom, uh, is probably the biggest candidate for an extension that way. But looking at the 22 Packers draft class, like what's this is Quay Walker and
Yeah, that's their fifth year options are coming up too.
yep. So they're gonna pick up both of them on uh both of their fifth years, I'd assume, like because I think they both deserve it. But Quay, Devontae, Christian Watson, Sean Ryan, Romeo Dobbs, Zach Tom, Kingsley Enagbare, and then Tariq Carpenter, Jonathan Ford, Rasheed Walker, and Samari Toure. I mean,
Walker's a fascinating.
right,
They've stuck behind him, but it's not.
right. But like, who are you paying out of this? Like Sean Ryan, maybe, but they just picked Jordan Morgan, and so
And now Josh Myers might leave.
he's a free agent, and so I think the only like surefire guys you get out of this are Quay and Devontae right now, and Zach Tom. My apologies. Like I
Well,
think those three
are you
have
saying like past 2025 season?
yeah,
Oh yeah, of
because I
course.
because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think those three have shown enough to get second contracts from the team. Like Devontae is
Well,
Devontae is barely above that line for me, but I think Quay, the way he played this year, deserves his fifth year option. So does Devontae, and then they'll probably extend Zach Tom because he's a really good right tackle. But I'm not confident giving any of these other guys
No,
another contract. Kingsley Barry can get a small deal, but
he's he's probably hit his. I shouldn't say that. People
he
can get
hasn't
better
peaked.
over
But
time.
like his role on this
But if
team
he's your
has been
third or fourth edge rusher on a good team,
that's good. He shouldn't be
yeah,
he shouldn't be two though, which is what he is right now for the Packers.
yeah, which is also an indictment on
The whole edge, like the whole edge position.
Lucas Van Ness
Yeah,
too.
and so we can get more into like contract extensions and things like that when we do grades and whatnot. But I mean, it's a good point that Robert Dobbs and Chris Watson need to get paid, and I don't know if you're going to pay them.
I don't Christian Watson absolutely not. I just
Yeah,
don't. It's it's why it's a business.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately like it's not a decision. I don't think anybody likes seeing happen if it does happen, but
no,
it's such a I just this is where it can get a little like you're kind of going through that is it that like gif of like someone like running through like landmines or like trying not to get yeah I mean
yeah.
this is
The
this
Dunkirk
is the hard
clip.
part. Yes, yeah, this is the hard part of retooling and rebuilding, even though it wasn't technically that. It's like when you go so hard with the youth movement like this, it's like no, there's gonna be real pain that the Packers feel, and they're gonna have to make a lot of hard decisions. Could they be justified in making? I don't know. If you hit on 70% of that, I think that's worth it. But ultimately, we're talking about a team that has Super Bowl ambitions, and that missing 30% could be the difference.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for them is that it's fun being young, and it's an easy way to get your cap back in order. But on the flip side, if you're gonna be young, you gotta hit on the draft picks. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying Goody hasn't because I think he's done a good job with the last few drafts, but you can't praise him too much when he only gives second contracts to a couple of those guys, right? Like
yes,
you
that's I
you can
was
only
exactly my
give
point.
second contracts to a certain number of guys, right? Like you can't give them all second contracts. But like looking at the class 2022, there's a case that you can make the case that you could give two of them another contract, Zach Tom and Quay Walker. At this point, I like Devontae. I think he deserves a third one. So that's just my opinion. But I could see where people might not want to give him a third one. And then class of 2023, Jaden Reed was looking to be like that guy. Now it's kind of like tenuous. I think
It's
he gets there,
yeah,
but if he has another year like this year, it's a maybe. As much as I like the guy, and then Lucas Van Ness is sprinting towards not getting his fifth year picked up. Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden, both guys that are good, not usurping Devontae Wyatt, not usurping Kenny Clark. And that's what they were kind of drafted to be was to be that next guy to go with Devontae Wyatt, in my opinion. Eventually getting off of Kenny Clark's deal once it
it's
expires. But
I think. Sorry, you finish.
no,
You finish.
I'm just saying that like none of the guys have like popped. The only guy that's like I would even argue that's popped, and this is early, is Evan Williams. Like he looks like to be a
Or Cooper.
or yep, my apologies. Edger Cooper is the obvious
Yeah.
answer. Edger Cooper and Evan Williams. Those two guys are projecting to be really good players right now. Obviously, both rookies can very much change, like these other two classes of rookies have in years 2 and 3. And so, yeah, it's tough. It makes a GM's job really hard. Luckily, they have cap space, so they can address some of this with some hopefully like some veterans. I think they need some experience in there, which is why I wrote my Substack article about wide receiver one. Like they need a guy they can rely on. I know Goody disagrees, but I think Goody also sees it through the lens of he saw Rodgers throw 100 and 69 times at Devontae Adams. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. It can be 100 with a good guy.
Yeah. Well, I think your point. I think Goody's obviously had a very checkered draft history. I think the problem is that a lot of the success stories are guys that they hit on later in the draft rather than at the top. Like Edger Cooper's the number one with the bullet of a guy that's clearly a shining star or future shining star picked in the second round, right? Yeah. But Evan Williams is around fourth round guy. You know, like Rasheed Walker, he's not perfect,
Seventh round
but
guy.
starting left
Yeah.
tackle from the seventh round, that's a success. Like a lot of those guys, Carl Brooks,
I wouldn't
you know,
even
I think
like say that this is me being harsh on Rasheed Walker, but I wouldn't even like say he's a success. Like a success, he's clearly the fifth best lineman on the team. Like I think he's just there because of lack of talent at the tackle position on the line. Like Jordan Morgan couldn't move him out of that spot, and he was a first round
no,
pick,
and then of course he got hurt.
right? But like they threw him out there and whatnot, and he was drafted as a tackle, and so I don't know. I'm calling it a success is fine. I wouldn't say huge,
Relative to
right?
success,
Relative
relative
to
to
where he
draft
was drafted,
position.
sure.
Yeah,
It just I'd say he's like a bottom half left tackle, even though the stats
yeah.
probably prove me wrong. But
I don't know.
I don't know.
He had a lot of penalties
He did, and I
too,
think again he's clearly the fifth best offensive lineman on the team.
and that's an offensive line that could look a lot different.
Yeah, like if you take out Josh Myers and throw in whoever, what do you do?
Tom Ryan,
Jenkins.
yeah.
So
I don't know.
ugh. Yeah, like I'm happy with the job Goody's doing, and I think this is like an appropriate time to have this conversation because I don't want to do like the whole player grades yet because we will do a pod on that. But I think this is a good topic of like Goody is doing a halfway decent job. I just wish he could pick first round picks better. Like I know that fans like to hem and haw, me particularly, about who they pick in the first round, and they never pick the guy Packers fans want them to draft. But like, could you imagine if this team took Cooper DeJean this year with their first round pick? They look a lot better in the secondary. Jair being out helps a lot more if you have Cooper DeJean or Quinyon Mitchell, like two guys, or Terry and Arnold, any of those guys that were available. I think one of them was taken before the Packers pick. I think it was Terry and Arnold. I think it was the Eagles first. I forget whichever. But any of those cornerbacks I lusted over in the draft process. That Graham Barton was doing okay to begin the year. He didn't finish it that well. But then we talked about Brian Branch 2 years ago instead of Lucas Van Ness. Like we got Xavier McKinney that works out, but Brian Branch, great, great safety on a good team on a rookie
Yeah,
deal. Like
yeah.
he's a good player, and so I worry sometimes that I'll have this discussion more, and I think I'm going to try to be as we go through the draft process this year, not so much predict who the Packers are going to pick because I think that is a fool's errand, and rather just pick the guys who would be the best for the Packers because that was the biggest thing about why I took off my Brian Branch pick was because he didn't fit the Packers
The
profile, the
RAS.
RAS score. He didn't fit the Packers profile of a guy that they would have picked. And so that's where I get a little frustrated is I think the Packers do focus a little too much on their measurables that they like in a player versus just watching tape and picking a player that can play. Because there's plenty of those guys, and oftentimes they get passed over. Like the Karlaftis one is bad. The um the center from Kansas City is bad.
Creed Humphrey.
Creed Humphrey. Like Cooper DeJean isn't great, obviously. And so there's a lot of them. Like every team can do this kind of thing, but I think for our fan base and Packers fans in general, it hurts a little more when it's players at positions of need. And of course, like drafting for need is never the best way to do it, but at the same time, you can't be reaching on players at positions of value just because those positions are more highly valued than others. If there's a good player there, you should take them because it's always good to have good players versus reaching on a guy like Lucas Van Ness who was raw and is clearly still very raw and not doing much with that physical talent that he has to be a productive NFL player.
Yep. Yeah. To you, uh, you mentioned picks ahead of Jordan Morgan. Tyrion Arnold was already off the board
Yeah,
by the Lions at 24, and
yep,
Quinion Mitchell was taken at 22nd. Yeah, I think again the proof is in the pudding of players that you're going to pay second contracts. I mean, if you even look at Kenny Clark, 2016, obviously that's a win. He's still on the team nearly 10 years later. But Jair, Rashawn Gary, guys that they paid big money to, have yet really made that leap. Really,
yeah, no,
Jordan Love, 2020. I mean, TBD on that. That one's even more fickle than Rashawn Gary and Jair. But Stokes, Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Luke Van Ness, Jordan Morgan, his future is yet to be written. But it doesn't help that they're selecting later in the round. Yeah, I mean, we assume because it's pick 23 that it's gonna be the 23rd best player. I'm not saying everybody's, but like
right,
you equate it to that value and how you gain the draft. But it's like
right,
no, like really spitballing here. 5% of those players taking that draft play more than 5 years or more longer than the average years of service for an NFL player,
mm-hmm,
and that's a win. But
right,
it's why they have so many picks to begin with because it turns out you can't pick your whole starting 22 players in the draft alone because you need help, free agency, trade,
yep,
undrafted guys. It's but the draft is obviously the biggest thing for the Packers because it's literally what has sustained them to be competitive for such a long time.
right,
So we put a bigger emphasis on all of it.
right. And so, I mean, yeah, it stinks looking at some of these players that like went right after Packers picks, like Will McDonald, 2 picks after Lucas Van Ness, like pretty darn good player.
Yeah.
Christian Gonzalez, 4 picks after Lucas Van Ness. Jack Campbell is a bit of a backwards pick for Detroit, but he's a good player. Kalai Kancey for Tampa, D lineman, really good player. Like that's the pick 19, and then uh the picks after that. Trying to see, we only had 1 pick that year. Yeah, in 2022. But then all of the receivers that were there, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, JSN, like they're all right there for picking. And so it's just tough to pass on those guys that are really good. And that's just how it goes. Like obviously they get Jaden Reed in this draft and he does well. But yeah, that's just where I'm at.
Yep.
Um Before we wrap up, should we talk about a little bit with the NFC North news? A little reaction to that. Ben Johnson going to the Bears. We talked a little bit about it on the Primo episode this week, so check out that if you want to subscribe to GSPN.info, $8 a month. Get the GSPN After Dark episodes and all of these GSPN pods ad free on the Substack. Uh, I talked about it on the Primo a little bit. Me, Rohan, and Andrew did. I think it's a good decision for the Bears. My only like thought about it is that or my couple of thoughts about it is that it's good that the Bears like reached for a really good pick, or like a really good coach. They're reaching for excellence versus reaching for like good and average, which is what like Eberflus the Eberflus choice was, the Nagy choice was. All of these guys have been just like, let's just get good versus let's be excellent. And I think that has the potential of what Ben Johnson could do for them. At the same time, Andrew said it could be very much the emperor has no clothes kind of thing, and I think that could very well be the case too. I I don't know if he's a good head coach in the fact that he doesn't seem like he's very personable. He seems like he's a bit robotic, which I don't know if that gels with a team as young as they are and as much coaching as they need.
I, okay.
That is to say, I'm sorry to interrupt you. That is to say, he's a very smart football brain. He's very talented. But I think
Yes.
the level of talent that requires him for his offense to go might be too much for the Bears right now.
I think it's a very loaded hiring because one, it comes with the fact that he was a hot name last year after the Lions surprised everybody to go to the NFC Championship game, and he decides to go back. He turns down Washington, turns down big money too. It's all rumors; it's not official, but you know, let's just say Washington was back at the Briggs truck to bring Ben Johnson there, and he turned them down. He goes to the Bears. Interesting subplot because it's obviously the team with the franchise quarterback taken first overall. And there's a lot to work with on paper. It's an organization that's trying to get back and have their moment in the sun again after many years of dark clouds and FBI raids and rain. Um, I just don't. I like. Do I see a lot of like Lafleur level kind of hype around him? No, because I think it's greater. I think Matt Lafleur was part of it is that he's from this lineage of the McVay, um, Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. So it's instilled that he learned from the best guys. These are the guys that are shaping the NFL for the years to come. Ben Johnson's kind of like has a lot of the principles of that offense, but he's the anomaly. He's the guy that comes out of nowhere, is an integral part of the program that helped build the Lions. And yeah, it didn't lead to a Super Bowl appearance, but it made them the best they've ever been in franchise history, or I mean, a very long time. I just think the expectations that he's going to fix Caleb Williams, that he's going to fix the Bears, is just ludicrous. It really is. And I've been looking to see if there's like official like word or like terms of his deal. There's nothing really yet. There's stuff from like Mike Flory or Pro Football Talk, but I'm just gonna be I take that with a grain of salt because it just seems like Mike Flory just puts out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that it's certainly not uninspired.
No, and I don't want to say it's ludicrous to think that he can get them out of this realm of mediocrity that they have. Like I think they have a better chance of being good than they have of being bad. Is how I'll put this. And so what I think it matters with is how well Caleb Williams can actually absorb all of his genius, as crazy and as a stupid of a sentence that is. But like if Ben Johnson can make a quarterback like Jared Goff, a former number one overall pick who wasn't playing well in LA, like was probably headed towards bustum. I mean, post Super Bowl he was not playing well. I think they won a
No, but
lot.
he still went to a Super Bowl.
Right.
Like
I
we
think
will
they
all
I
agree
think
that
they
there's
won in
a
spite.
ceiling with Jared Goff.
Right. I think they won in spite of him though. In my opinion.
I I don't I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
Let me go find Jared Goff's stats here.
I know that was last. I believe that was Todd Gurley's last year
Right. And
of
so,
like prominence. I should
when
say
did they go to the Super Bowl? What year was that?
2019. It would have been 2018 season, but 2019 in terms of the year.
2019. It was the last year before the pandemic, right?
And second to last year for Brady in New England.
Right. So in 2019, he led them to a 9-7 record, 4,600 yards, 22 touchdowns to 16 interceptions. He was sacked 22
That's
times.
year after the Super Bowl, you said, right?
2019.
2018 season.
2018 season was the year they went to the Super Bowl.
Went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots.
Okay, let me go back to the 2018 season then. 2018 season was 13-3, 32 touchdowns to 12 picks. So good, but I don't know. I'm more inclined to credit McVay for that than I am Goff. The stats are good, no doubt. I'll eat crow on that. But it's like, how much of that is McVay, considering they get Stafford? He does the same thing and they win at that time because Stafford's a better quarterback.
I agree.
And so that is all to say Ben Johnson is getting a quarterback much younger than Jared Goff was. Probably has better talent as better is more talented with the
Raw
football
talent for
than
sure.
Jared Goff was. And then from there has a quarterback that's, I'd argue, inspired to do well. I think Caleb Williams wants to be a good quarterback. I think that's very obvious. And so you bring in those two minds, I think it has potential to be very good. If he can make Jared Goff into what he was these last 2-3 years, I have a hard time believing that he couldn't do the same with Caleb Williams in the next 2 years.
I think the big difference is that we're talking about Jared Goff, whatever you want to say of him. He is elevated by a system. Yeah, I mean, whether it's Sean McVay or Ben Johnson under Dan Campbell, like he needs the best talent around him. Caleb Williams, at least coming out of college, I know the Bears did a lot to like try to make him not look as poor as he did for his rookie season. Had clear raw talent, but his game was a lot of freelance. He was a lot of like
Right.
running around and letting play like the Russell Wilson level hero ball, running out of the pocket. His system was not a system, despite what Lincoln Riley was doing with him. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so I think that is going to be the hardest thing to do is that you're going to have to like kind of deprogram him
I don't
and
even
turn him into.
turn him into a pocket passer where he has a cannon. And
Well, I don't think it's even just pocket pass. I think it's just like more of like what does Caleb Williams look like with like in a principled system in like
right.
that kind of not playing like flag football
And
level.
I
Like
think that's where you're proving my point is that
yeah,
he wasn't good at USC. Like he
no, especially post Heisman year,
post
he
Heisman
was
he
terrible.
was bad.
Yeah,
And it's because
but that's 2 years of like
they didn't have
real.
yeah, real backyard football stuff. And so I agree that he'll need some deprogramming to build him back up from the studs to really harness the talent that he has. But that's not an issue if it takes 2 years to get there. If you go through this season and you can see the progress, I think that's fine. Like, look at what Bryce Young has done in Carolina. He was really bad last year, really bad, and then
Yeah,
he gets uh, Dave Canales, QB wizard and former former addict.
a computer wizard.
Yeah, computer sticky magazine wizard. Fucking
Jesus.
sorry, folks. It's late. I'm getting giddy. But he gets benched for a couple of games this season in Carolina, and after that, he plays really well. Like he's starting to look like a real NFL quarterback. And so, if you tear Caleb Williams down to the studs, which I don't even think you really need to do, just stop making him
No.
fear every defensive line because his line sucks, he'll be fine. Like if they just invest in the offensive line this offseason, they'll be just fine. And so make him a pocket passer, make him more comfortable throwing on a 3-step, 5-step drop into these really fast like routes that Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore will run. I think they'll be
Well,
fine.
Allen might not be back.
Okay,
I believe he's a
but
free
then
agent.
for sure,
Yeah.
Odunze and Moore. And I think with that, like no one wins the offseason like the Bears do. Obviously, that is a very well
It's
established
true.
thing. But
3 years running.
that's where I'm like, it could be really, really good, or it could just be really bad. Like
And honestly,
it's
too,
all
is
about how
really
Caleb Williams uptakes Ben Johnson's system.
is the success that the Bears aspire to have with Caleb Williams under center,
Yeah,
and now having Ben Johnson on board enough to take them over. You think on the surface because of how important quarterbacks are, but also as you mentioned, like just a lot of odd personal quirks and
yeah,
characteristics for Mr. Johnson.
yeah. He's a bit of a weirdo, it seems. And so the other departure out of Detroit, we'll talk about this one uh, less in depth considering. But Aaron Glenn goes to the Jets to be their new head coach, uh, and I think those two departures, in my mind, lend some credence that there might be a pretty heavy regression out of Detroit next year. They have all the same players, but when you have brain drain like that, it is really hard to come back from. We talk about that a lot with how um, the Packers suffered that when they just kept getting coaches taken out from under them, and it's hard to replace good coaches like that in the immediacy right away. And so
Yeah.
I think they'll still be good. They still have talented players, like all those guys there. But and this might be premature again. I say premature again because we talked about the prematurity of Caleb Williams stinking on the primo. Um, but the window for the Lions might have slammed shut with that loss to the Commanders because
We'll see.
this
It's
this
a
what
lot
this
of
was supposed to be the year. 15-2, number one seed in the NFC. Like you have all your guys. You got an extra year out of Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, and then get embarrassed at home against the Commanders, and that's that. And so, if you're not able to replicate that success, not able to find an offensive coordinator that will be able to harness those players like Ben Johnson did, it could look worse. And
yeah.
they were very injured this year. Like that is an unfortunate reality of their season. That happens, and they'll be better on defense next year. They'll get Aiden Hutchinson back, and they'll get a lot of players back. But it's hard to bottle that energy, and it's a big we'll see moment. Like this is a watershed moment in Lions history. Will they be able to sustain this run of success that they've had the last 2 years and all the winning they've done and follow it up with something that is hopefully a Super Bowl appearance?
I agree. A lot will be on their shoulders of being able to pick up where they left off, not right where they left off for their sake. But yeah, I mean, like it's, I don't know. I don't know.
I think in the context of for the Packers, like I think the NFC North next year doesn't look as good as it was this year, but I think that it ends up at the same amount of wins. Does that make sense? I think
Yeah, it might
you
be
take a
equally dispersed rather than
you take a couple out of
3 teams.
The Lions and the Vikings tally, and throw them to the Packers and the Bears. And I think it's a little more equal. Like I think it'll be a tight race next year with no uh, clear winner going into like week 15.
And we don't even know what the Vikings are going to do with their quarterback position.
Yeah, we talked about that in the primo as well.
Yeah, it's just not the future forecast for pretty much every team in the NFC North. I mean, you mentioned like Bears win the offseason, but it's still not like it's not a finished team by any means. They still
No.
were terrible.
Yeah.
You know,
They need running back and they need
so
offensive lineman. Defense is good. They need to keep stocking up their defensive players and whatnot, but they'll pick high ish. I think 8, something like that. So, regardless. Anything else, Jordan?
No, I think that's it for now.
All right.
At this point, 10 days in the off season or whatever it is, like 12 probably.
Yeah, something like that. So, all right, folks, that does it for this episode of Talk of the Tundra. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in your podcast feed soon doing grades for the offense and the defensive players. So keep an eye out for that. Go check out GSPN, all the pods there with Eurostep with Ty and Rohan, 1 and 6 with Jordan and Adam, as they talk about all things Bucks as they give the beat down to the Heat straight off the tarmac onto the court, winning games. Good showing
Unlike Jimmy
there.
Butler.
Unlike Jimmy Butler, he missed the flight.
Mm-hmm.
um, and then all things Brewers with Cruising for a Bruising. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but Jordan, Andrew, and Adam had a chance to eulogize Bob Uecker a little bit.
Andrew and Adam.
Andrew,
Unfortunately.
I saw the thumbnail for you on the GSPN Substack. My apologies. So just Andrew and Adam. Um, so go check that out, and then make time for this as well as award season is among us. So uh, go subscribe to GSPN's premium Substack page, $8 a month. Writing a lot of articles there. I've written one on wide receiver one. Goody or Jordan wrote one on Goody, and a couple other Packers ones. Bunch of good stuff there. So go check it out. We'd appreciate your support. Thank you for listening, and Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.